And so my understanding of the word individual, it means the undivided person. It can also mean the indivisible person, so that when a person becomes individuated, you cannot divide them no matter how much outside pressure you bring upon them. So the basic idea there, I think, is humans start out, we're divided against ourselves on the inside. Some of that division, I think, is between the ego and the deep self, especially until the ego awakens to the fact that there is a deep self. Until then, the ego thinks it is the deep self. And so that's a deep human division that alchemy, depth psychology, and mythology all show ways of healing that division and connecting ego and deep self in a meaningful way. Another way I think of this inner dividedness is between the person, and Jung called it the shadow, a kind of an opposite energy that's inside. And it's interesting because you find stories about that in folklore and tribal traditions. So this was something that was well known, that there is an opposing energy. In Sanskrit, you have the word vidya, from which we get video, and also vision. And vidya would be the vision of the soul, but then everyone also has avidya, that is to say, an opposing energy that makes what otherwise would be the vision of the soul a kind of blindness. And so that's another way of almost mythologically seeing this inner division. And then the other thing that comes to mind is the notion that the opposite of the individual or individuated person is the neurotic, and the neurotic is that process through which we oppose ourselves. We oppose the deeper aim of our life. We try to solve the division in a way that's wrong, and that leads to neurosis. And so for me, this gets very interesting now because of the conditions in the world where all the oppositions have become intensified. And so it's as if the inner oppositions are now appearing outside in the world, in the intense divisions that are occurring in many cultures, in the battles between different points of view. People get fundamentalist about their ideas. And so there's an old idea that says when fate isn't faced inside, everyone gets to live it outside. And I think we're in that fateful position of intensification of oppositions in the world. And that makes me think of another interesting old idea that Jung mentioned and James Hillman also talked about, which is no healing unless the deep internal split is touched. So this is true for the individual. This is true for the world. Healing, that word, healing means whole, make whole. And so healing is when something causes us to touch the deep split and then find wholeness. And so one of the important things, I think, being alive in this very troubled time on earth when nature and culture are so severely opposed, is finding moments of wholeness, which I think in Jungian terms would be finding moments where the ego can recognize the presence of the deep self. And those are the kind of moments that can keep a person in a meaningful connection to themselves, to their soul, to the aim of their life, despite and maybe even because of the intense oppositions in the world.